Hi everyone. Today we will be taking a look at my predictions and we'll be going through a lot of the primary races occurring on the Democratic side on June 23rd, which is tomorrow. So there's a lot of progressives here on the ballot and we're going to go through these one by one. Charles Booker right now. So we're going to go through the Kentucky Senate race. We're going to go through, I think, three or four uh, New York House races, local races, but we're not going to touch on the state Senate, state House because if I did predictions for all of them, there would be quite a few there to do. But this is a very high-profile race, right? So you've got Charles Booker. Okay, we'll get onto the poll in just a second, but Charles Booker, he's the sort of he's on the progressive left. He is an African American male figure, and he has ran on a Bernie style platform. And then on the other side, you've got Amy McGrath, um, more sort of a moderate, you could say, a more moderate Democrat, a more pragmatic Democrat. She was handpicked by Chuck Schumer and the DNC and the Democratic Party to run in this Kentucky Senate race. She had previously ran in the Kentucky, was it 4th or 6th district? Either the 4th or the 6th. And it was sort of, a swingy bellwether sort of district, and she did narrowly lose. She's a former fighter pilot, but she has made many errors on this specific campaign. She's called herself a pro-Trump Democrat, which I just think makes no sense at all. If you're gonna be a Democrat, then you're not gonna. It just doesn't make much sense to me. It might appeal to the voters of Kentucky. Um, but if we take a look at the most recent, or I think actually now the only poll, let's see if I can actually go. That is really weird. There we go. So um, it was just, it had to catch up there. Kentucky Democratic Primary Senate. This is from Civic slash Data for Progress. This poll actually shows the insurgent here, Charles Booker, right now leading Amy McGrath 44-36. So this comes as quite a surprise, and it's also worth noting there's also 4% for Mike Breuer, who's another candidate in this race. He's also a more progressive challenger there to Amy McGrath. But right now it looks like Booker is the progressive here with the momentum. He's also got quite a few high profile endorsements in the last few days and weeks. So he got the Sanders endorsement, which is important. He got the Warren endorsement. I believe he got the AOC endorsement, but I'm not so sure about that one. He got quite a few high profile progressive endorsements, and that's really important as we learned in the 2020 primary campaign. Amy McGrath, she was originally, uh, the clear favorite, but right now with this new poll showing Booker leading, I mean, it's anyone's game. And I actually, right now, I'm gonna make a bold prediction here. This is probably my boldest one here out of the races. I'm actually gonna say Charles Booker is the favorite going into tomorrow. I think he's ran a good campaign. The McGrath campaign has made a lot of actually many errors. Charles Booker he's got a really good ad out there. Excuse me, that I've watched, and I think it's really compelling. Um, Charles Booker, I think he's gonna do well, and I think it's going to be close, but at the end of the day, my prediction is, and I'm on the record here, Charles Booker, I think, will win the Kentucky Senate primary, and I think that's probably going to come as an upset to many of the Democrats in the Senate, definitely to people like Mitch McConnell. Um, yeah. Next up, if it's gonna load, it's playing up a bit today. We have Jamaal Bowman versus Elliot Engel. So this is another very high-profile race, probably more high-profile than the Kentucky race. Jamaal Bowman. So pretty much a rundown of both of these candidates. Bowman. So he has had. He is a former middle school principal, so he's like an educator. So I think that's quite interesting. He's a progressive, again, running on a Bernie esque platform. He's in favor of programs such as Medicare for all, uh, I believe Green New Deal, you know, um, decriminalization of marijuana and such, ending the drug war, criminal justice reform, those sort of Bernie style policies. So that's Bowman, and he is running against Representative Elliot Engel. Oh, it's sorry. I'll get onto the endorsements in a second, but Elliot Engel right now, he has made well. Firstly, he is sort of more a centrist establishment candidate. Uh, but he's made a lot of errors in this primary. He called Alexandria Ocasio Cortez for endorsing Bowman. He called her a quote dictator, which I thought was interesting. And I would probably flip it back on Engel and well as Hillary Clinton a dictator for endorsing Engel, which I think is something that he might want to take into account before saying such things. But the left, as sort of Politico put it, the left is uniting behind to defeat Elliot Engel. Bernie has endorsed Bowman. The other progressives in the race have dropped out and endorsed Bowman because they can see that Bowman's the one with the momentum. He's got the Bernie endorsement, he's got the Warren endorsement, he's got the AOC endorsement. I think most of the squad members have endorsed Bowman. But Engel, yeah, obviously the most high profile gaffe there by Engel was saying, if I didn't have a primary, I wouldn't care to come back to the district, which obviously isn't the best look when you're facing a primary. So it's not looking good for Engel. We've got some new polling coming out here, which I think is very interesting. Take a look at this. I'm just getting the pointer out here. Jamaal Bowman versus Elliot Engel right now. So Jamaal Bowman 41-31 over Elliot Engel. And I'm really glad they included this if undecided category, which we'll get onto in a second. But the top line, Bowman Engel 41-31. This is really, really big right now. You can see a lot of different sort of cross tabs, which I really like to take a look at. In terms of female voters, Bowman is just absolutely trouncing Engel on that. Engel narrowly wins with male voters. In terms of under 45, again, Bowman just absolutely crushing it. And then over 45, Engel is sort of more competitive with Bowman on that metric. But still, Bowman even leads with over 45, which is quite impressive given that Bernie wasn't able to win over 45s. No college degree, 40-32 in favor of Bowman, and with college, 42-31. So there's not actually that much different in terms of college and non-college. If you're black or African American, they vote for Bowman 56-10, which is very interesting considering that the Congressional Black Caucus actually endorsed Engel, I believe, which is fascinating. Hispanic or Latina, Latino, Latina, Latinx, whatever, 37-29. So that's also very interesting. And then white voters are in favor of Elliot Engel. So 41-31 right now. Jamaal Bowman is leading in this poll. And then I just switched on to the next slide. If undecided, this is really important actually, because when I just saw the top line numbers, when Bowman is only at 41, I actually thought that, with the incumbency factor, I thought Engel would be able to pull it out of the bag, just because when like an insurgent is at like 41, normally and they're leading at 41, normally those undecided voters actually end up breaking for the incumbent. So I'm really glad they included this if undecided. And this was really what shocked me. Take a look at this, the top line undecided numbers. So of those 27% who were undecided, 40-18 go to Jamaal Bowman. And I mean, that's just very impressive. And then you can go through all of the crosstabs as well. I thought that was really interesting. And the sample size, it isn't the best, 525. But, I mean, overall, This poll alone has disaster for Engel all over. He's losing over 45. That's critical demographic for all of the establishment candidates. He's only barely winning with male voters, and Bowman is just absolutely kicking ass in female voters, which is very interesting. And so all of these really point to, in my opinion, oh, did I not put his photo? Right, that's a bit annoying. So, but I think that Jamaal Bowman right now is the favorite to go on and win in that New York district against Engel. Moving on to Mondaire Jones versus Evelyn Farkas. New York 17 right now. We've got this poll, and I really do appreciate them doing these polls because it gives us a lot of insight here. Mondaire Jones, so this is the first choice, this is the second choice. Mondaire Jones right now is leading 25% of the vote to Evelyn Farkas 14%. That's their nearest challenger. Also Adam Schroeder. I don't know how to say his name. I'm sorry to that guy. 14%, followed by David Karkuli, who is actually one of the leaders of the IDP, the independent group who votes with the Republicans, who many progressives ousted in 2018 in New York. And then after that, you've got a slew of candidates here. 8% for David Butchwald, 3% for Asha Castelberry Hernandez, and 2% for Allison Fine there. Alright, so Mondaire Jones, the progressive, she is leading, and especially, but 25-14 you could say is quite a margin. It's really hard to say. These primaries look like they're quite good for progressives. The Booker race, the Engel race, and the Jones race, they all look pretty good for the progressives. I would say they're probably not going to win all three. They're probably going to lose one. But the polling does suggest they're the favourite. It's really hard to know with Mondaire Jones. The polling, at the end of the day, even with the second choice here, so just going into not sure here, we can see Evelyn Farkas, who's the most formidable opponent. I think that if all of these centrists here, Butchwald, Karkuluni, Castelberry Hernandez, Farkas Fine, and Schreifer, if they all combine their support, if they just decided to unite behind one candidate, probably Farkas, because she's tied for second with Schreiber, and she's also doing better there. So I think that they would definitely be able to defeat Jones. At this point, I did put Farkas when I wrote this slideshow. I'm actually sort of leaning towards going for Jones right now, but I don't think the progressives are going to win. I don't think they're going to clean sweep all three just based on chance. This one's I'm actually not going to make a prediction for this one. I'm just going to say this one's officially, it's hard to say. I mean, I think maybe some of these, people who are voting for these centrists at the end of the day who don't have a chance, like, Fine or Castelberry Hernandez, they might unite behind more viable alternatives, like, Kakaluni or Farkas or Schreifler. But at the end of the day, an 11-point win in a poll is an 11-point win. It's hard to know. I'm gonna say Jones for this one, but I would not be surprised at all if someone else won. So yeah, Samyas Lopez versus Ruben Diaz Sr. So for this one, I'm gonna give this one to Ruben Diaz Sr. We haven't had much reliable polling. He's sort of an established sort of figure. I think it's going to be tough for Lopez. Oh, sorry, I do believe we did have a poll. I believe Lopez was at about 2% there. So not looking good for her. I'm going to give the favourite to Diaz there. Moving on, let's see if it's going to load for us. There we go. So we've got one of the most high profile here. Ocasio-Cortez is facing a primary there from Michelle Caruso Cabrera in New York 14. Unfortunately, we don't have much polling data to go off of, but just based on the debate that they did, I can say Ocasio-Cortez absolutely destroyed Caruso Cabrera. And I'm going to give the favorite there to the incumbent in AOC to hold on to her seat. And I believe that is all of the primaries we'll be taking a look at today. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I do hope you give it a like and share and all. So just as a quick rundown, Charles Booker right now, just based on this poll, I've got to give the edge over to Booker. In the Bowman-Engel race, this poll was really good for Bowman, and I've got to give the edge there to Jamaal Bowman. In the Mondaire Jones versus Evelyn Farkas race, I could see this one going either way. At the end of the day, Jones leading plus 11. I've got to give that to Jones, so that's actually not Jones there. When I wrote it, I gave the edge to Farkas, but Jones, I think, will win in there. Lopez versus Diaz Sr. in 15, I'm going to give the edge to Diaz Sr. And AOC versus MCC, I'm going to give the edge to AOC, the incumbent there. So, for each, if you isolate each individual race, these are my predictions. So overall, I think it's going to be a pretty good night for the progressives, right? You've got AOC winning her re-election. Yes, you do get the, the bad news with Samuel's Lopez, but I'm predicting a Jones victory, I'm predicting a Bowman victory, and I'm also predicting a Charles Booker victory. And obviously for the New York races, most of these are like safe Democratic seats, but obviously for the Kentucky race, obviously whoever wins will have to go up against Mitch McConnell, who's obviously going to be very tough to beat. So that's it for today's video, guys. And again, if you isolate each of those races, these are my predictions. I honestly think out of the 4 that I've given the victories to progressives, I think only 3 will make it by. So I think that either Booker will lose, or Bowman will lose, or Mondaire Jones will lose, or AOC will lose. And obviously the most devastating would be the AOC loss, because she's sort of viewed as the new sort of, I guess, leader of the Democratic left. So that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you and good night.